Okay, good evening. If we could get everybody to start kind of moseying over here, we're going to begin our evening. My name is Logan Bolds, and I am honored and humbled to serve as Stratford's head of school. On behalf of the Stratford Academy faculty and staff, our Board of Trustees, and the Bethune family, allow me to welcome you to campus. We are gathered here tonight to celebrate the incredible life of Walker Bethune. While his death is tragic, no doubt, it has been amazing to see the number of people and families that this has brought together and allowed us to have a night like this. And so many people have been able to make this night as successful as it is, and I'm thankful for each of them. A special shout out to Rob Evans, Kathleen Medlin, Buddy Lovell, and Jeremy Ray for truly helping this come together and making this a possibility. Also to Elizabeth Shore for all of our fabulous logos and our stickers. Can we give them a round of applause? Now, as we all know by now, Walker loved him some Allman Brothers, and he passed while listening to one of his favorite songs, Soulshine. So, as we prepare to listen to this tribute for Walker, the last song that will be played is Soulshine. At that time, the lights that you got as you entered, crack those and hold them in the air for our light at tribute. Something that I have seen written time and time again about Walker was that though his life was short, he lived deeply. He didn't skate through life. He didn't just dabble in things. If Walker Bethune was going to do something, Walker Bethune was going to do it. If he was going to ace the SAT, he wasn't just going to study some on the weeknights. He was going to have a tutor and he was going to ace it. If he was going to have a pressure washing company, he wouldn't just buy a pressure washer. He'd recruit help, make a logo, send invoices, many of which came to us, and give his all for the company. And most importantly, if Walker was going to love on someone, be it friend, family, girlfriend, or the enemy that he never had, he was going to do it with all of his heart. After his accident until his death, our school was overwhelmed with the outpouring of support from people from around the world. We conducted interviews and entertained phone calls from CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, the Daily Mail, People Magazine, Washington Post, and all of the local news agencies in Georgia and Florida. As a result, we literally had millions of people interacting with news about Walker and praying for his family during this time. It was what has brought so much positive attention to such a horrific accident, and I remain thankful that we were able to get Walker's story out in front of so many people. In fact, something that people from all over the world, along with families here in Middle Georgia, keep asking us is, what can we do to help? I am so pleased to announce tonight that Stratford Academy has created the Walker Bethune Memorial Scholarship. In the coming days on social media, you will see the full story and description of this incredible scholarship that will be awarded to a Stratford student each year, but we wanted to take a moment to let everyone know about this opportunity to give. You can visit stratford.org for more information or watch our social media accounts in the coming days. And you are always an immediate need that you can do now for those who want to give. You're welcome to Venmo the school any amount, and you can put the note WB in the note there. I also want to give a shout out for the Northway Cornhole Tournament, as well as the Cars and Coffee event hosted by Brig White here on campus. That event alone raised $4,000 for the scholarship. Say that? And Darren Shivdat, that's correct. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Brig and Darren. Thank you, Brig. The last conversation I had with Walker was in my office just a few days before he left for his beach trip. He had been hired by Stratford to try and remove the paint from the senior parking lots. Sadly, he tried and tried and tried and failed multiple times. Literally, I think he spent hours working over the same spot and time again, because that's just the type of kid Walker was. If he said he was going to do something for someone, he was going to do it. He had walked into my office saying he couldn't get it done, something I knew that I had to have torn him up to admit. But that conversation was one that turned into another conversation about his life, his upcoming trip to the beach, his girlfriend, college, future. I thank God every day that he failed at that pressure washing job, because it forced him to come into my office and we got to spend time together. Moments I will treasure forever. Walker Bethune's life was a deep one, and will continue to impact students and families for generations to come. While I was able just to see a glimpse of Walker's wonderful life, to the entire Bethune family here tonight, we are thankful that you shared him with us. As a lot of people know, Walker was learning to play the guitar, and shortly before his death, his parents stumbled upon a recording on his phone of the Star-Spangled Banner. His rendition will now be played if everyone will stand for us to begin our evening. Okay, you may be seated. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Kelly, who many of you know as a dedicated educator at our school for several decades, and who quickly became one of Walker's favorite teachers.
Good evening. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it was like to be Walker's teacher for the last 3 years. This I know. If you wanted something done, you got Walker. If it needed to be done correctly and with imagination, you got Walker. 2 examples. First, Cornhole Club. Last school year was a difficult year for lots of us. There were a lot of uncertainties, stresses, and fears about the pandemic. Coming to school, you had to wear a mask. As soon as you got here, someone stuck a thermometer in your face. As you walked down the hall, somebody had a 6-foot pole they put between you and everybody else. Many of the things that were fun and made the year worthwhile were canceled for obvious reasons. Others were truncated to where they weren't all that enjoyable. And I remember early in the year, Walker came in a room and said, "What do you think of a cornhole club?" And I'll be honest, I don't know anything about cornhole, and I don't think I was very helpful. But I do remember that I watched with amazement and delight as Walker started the club, organized it, acquired top quality equipment, and with others staged a series of tournaments throughout the year. Students signed up in droves. Tournaments were well attended, competitive, and full of laughter. It was the perfect pandemic activity. It was outside, it was socially distanced. You could even wear a mask to do it if you wanted to. Mostly, it brought joy, laughter, and fun back to a year when those were in very much short supply. I would go out to the area by the science building where the tournaments were being held, and for the rest of the day, I felt a lot better, and for the rest of the week. At the end of the year, there was a big tournament. The winner's got a green jacket, which means something here in Georgia, of course, and a big, huge trophy, probably the biggest one Stratford gives for anything. And it was Walker's vision, persistence, and devotion to doing things right that enabled this to happen. And more than anything else I can remember from last year, it made the year better than it should have been. Second thing, project event and the engineering program we have at Stratford. It is impossible for me to imagine us having that without Walker. Project Event is a national organization that gets teams of students to invent technological solutions to problems in the community. And the group we had here decided to make a glove that would help people that have neuropathy in the hand, which means the nerves don't work in their hand so they can't feel things. And the glove was designed to help them sense pressure and to help them sense heat so they don't burn themselves. And I remember throughout the year, the last one here working on that project every day was Walker. He stayed after school. He was sitting there hammering away at the thermocouplers or trying to string up the wires and stuff like that. And every time I would get nervous we weren't going to meet a deadline, he would look at me incredulously and say, "Don't worry, Mr. Kelly, we got this." Well, he did have it. Due to Walker's persistence and leadership, the team placed second in the National Demo Day. They were chosen to work with a group of engineers to try to bring this product to market. And Project Event decided to pick our team out of all the others to sponsor to present at the South by Southwest conference in Austin, Texas in the spring. Walker's persistence and integrity. If he committed to something, it was for the duration of it, to get it right. Always amazed me. I've been teaching for over 40 years, and I've worked with many outstanding individuals, but there is none that exhibited these characteristics better than Walker. The last thing I want to talk about is Walker's sense of perspective, the joy, the excitement, and the humor he brought to everything. He brought a youthful sense of wonder, possibility, and excitement to learning new things, undergoing new experiences, and pushing forward, even if you didn't entirely know where you were going. But he also had the integrity to know once you undertook that, you had a responsibility to play it out. You were obligated to do your best and to see it through, to getting it done. His sense of humor was rich and diverse. He bowed his way into my room with wide and witty observations on current events, the absurdities of, well, almost everything. His delight in making fun of me and of my peculiarities was an ongoing thing. His humor could be goofy, satirical, sarcastic, but there was always a sense of fun there. One day, I want to talk about practical jokes a little bit. One day, right before we had a big due date for Project Event, the glove, Walker walked in and had a glove in front of me. And it was mangled, and it had wires all over the place, and it was burnt. And he said, "We tried something, and it didn't work." And of course, he waited just long enough for me to go in a panic, smiled, pulled out the real glove, which of course was in pretty much perfect shape. The last one I want to talk about is last year we had to move all of our equipment out to what used to be the maintenance shed out back of the cafeteria. And I wanted it to be kind of a dignified place, so I said, we're going to call it the Maker Shed. And I remember Walker looking at me and saying, "It's a shack. It's a shack in the back." And throughout the whole year, we kind of had this discussion. I'd say Maker Shed, he'd say shack. I'd say Maker Shed, he said shack. So one day in February, I walk into class, and in neon pink, there's a big sign over the door that says the shack. So I walk in, I kind of ignore it, get through class. Towards the end, Walker comes up to me sheepishly and said, "Did you notice the sign?" And I said, my best intimidating look, "Yeah." And he smiled and said, "Don't worry, it's not attached. You can take it down." For some reason, I didn't take it down. It's still there. The shack it is. In our relationship, Walker gave me much more than I did to him. He was an accomplished student, musician, and leader, whether he ever entered my doorway or not in my classroom. But what I know is this: in the area of my life that matters to me most, my teaching, Walker made me more perceptive, more flexible, more trusting, and a more engaged teacher. So there's a tremendous void this year as I go throughout the year. But I do have memories that many of the high points of my teaching career in my life were brought to me by Walker. And every day I'll pass under that pink neon sign and think of him.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Now we have Coach Walt Mays, who will speak about Walker from a coaching aspect.
I got lucky. I got to coach Walker in track his sophomore and junior years. And I say I got lucky because his other sport at Stratford was cross country. He did not run cross country his freshman year, but something great happened that year. Two of his other coaches, Coach Joe Brogdon and Coach Sean Sweeney, took over the cross country team. And those guys did such a great job of raising the expectations of that team and the commitment level that it took and the intensity and the effort that it took, that Walker totally responded to that. And he went from a guy who probably was on the cross-country team as a freshman to a guy who loved to run competitively. Like I said, as the track coach, I benefited from that because running track in the spring, came naturally from running cross-country in the fall. It's cross-country season now, and I know that they miss that guy at practice every day. Cross-country by its very nature, you're going on long runs. It's hot. It can be, tedious. I'll say that. It's just tough. It's a grind. And, I know most of the guys on the cross-country team, and I love them, but that's not the most talkative group of guys. And Walker was the guy that he had so many interests. He was always the guy that could carry a conversation. He was the guy that could make things interesting. He was the guy that kept practice fun. And I know you have to have a guy like that. That guy is the glue that takes a group from just a group of people to an actual team. And he did such a fantastic job with that. And I know that's one of the reasons they were such a tight-knit group. Now, he came out for track, like I said, sophomore year. Of course, it was cut off from COVID. But first of all, I was just so excited to have Walker and Nathan come out for track that year because it had been years since I'd had a decent distance runner on the track team. I really appreciate it. I promise y'all. And Walker was great. Every day he'd come to practice, and he'd ask me what we had for practice. And I would tell him, and it was usually something terrible, and he would just nod his head and go, "That sounds fun." And that was it. That's all he said every day. "That sounds fun." Okay, it was not fun, okay? But he never complained. He never whined. He was never negative. That's just who he was. He just went to practice and worked. And it was so important because practice is where you make a team. You don't make your team in games or meets. You make it in practice. That's where the guys come together. And Walker was not the best runner on the team. I mean, he was good, but he wasn't the best runner. He wasn't the most talented on the team, but he practiced like he was. And, the distance runners' practice was the hardest one, and everybody on the track team knows that, and they're taking their cues from those guys a lot of times. And I just think that, the way he conducted himself, well, put it this way, I like the phrase, "a rising tide lifts all ships." Okay, that's what Walker did. He elevated everybody around him by his attitude and effort. Now, I know he was super proud of the team accomplishments because he had several in cross country and track. He was really proud of the area championships that both teams won. He was super proud. We were state runner-up in track this spring, and I know he took a great deal of pride because I'd heard how he and Coach Brogdon used to strategize for cross-country meets like we normally strategize for football games. But he did the same thing with the 4x800 this year. He made it his goal. He knew who the competition was, who he had to beat to get out of area and then go to state. And then he was a part of the team that accomplished their goal. And he made it to the finals and scored in the state track meet. And his name is on a school record that's probably going to be around here for a really, really long time. Now, Walker liked to figure things out, and he liked to be in the know. I just think about this at the state track meet. Now, the state track meet there's a lot going on. You have 50-plus teams. There are girls and boys teams. There are 3 classifications going on. There are 17 different events. They score 1st through 8th place. You can go score from 1 to 10 points depending on where you place, and it all occurs simultaneously over 3 days. My wife is used to me just walking around talking to myself a lot during track season. We got to that weekend, and the guys knew we had a chance to be pretty good, have a good meet. And basically, all of them were asking me all weekend long, "How are we doing? What's going on?" I mean, none of those guys really had any idea what was going on in the meet, except Walker. By the end of the second day, he had figured the whole system out. And not only was he telling me how we were doing as a team, he was telling me how the other teams were doing as teams. That's just how he was. we had football practice scheduled for the morning after we found out that Walker had passed. And, obviously, getting on the field was not the most important thing that morning. Coach Farber just let the guys stay in the locker room and just talk about Walker as a friend and a teammate and a classmate. And I heard some awesome things that morning. They loved him. They loved him. They talked about how Walker was always one to reach out to somebody who might have been an outsider, might not have been an in-person. He would always reach out and try to make them feel welcome. How much he loved Stratford and wanted other people to love Stratford as much as he did. How he was always the first person to greet a new student when they got to school. And I'm not talking about maybe in high school when it was intentional or, he's making a choice. There were guys that remember coming in first and second grade, and Walker was the first person to come shake their hand and welcome them. One of the guys said it, and I just thought this was really good. He said, Walker was the kind of person, if you ever had a problem with Walker, you needed to check yourself, because the problem was with you, not Walker. David and Stacy, thank y'all for letting us coach you. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Mays. Before I turn this over to Rob Evans to kick the night off, with the strength and the faith that only God can provide, David Bethune would like a few moments to talk to everyone here. Okay, so please let's welcome David. All right.
I look better with my better half next to me. Please look around to your left and your right. I have never seen anything like this. We have been blessed and uplifted from that fateful night. And it's all because of the Lord Jesus Christ that has allowed us to get out of bed, read your letters, go back in his room, drive his car, and just hug every one of you. We really wanted to get back to Macon, Georgia. But there were angels in South Florida that carried us and opened doors for us to be able to get back here. I can't tell everybody thank you because we wouldn't get to hear any great music tonight. But Rob Evans, just look at this. I can't ever remember Stratford having a stage like this with this many people ready to have some fun. Logan Bowles, you are our leader, and I hope you'll stick around for a mighty long time. You have made the right call and the right decisions from the very moment you got here. You have led our children and our adults in a way that I don't know that we've ever seen. Stratford is better today than it ever was when we went to school here. And what a blessing to see that Mike Kelly came and spoke tonight. Both of us took classes under Mr. Kelly, government and economics. And Walt Mays was a weightlifting coach of mine before he left to go to Afghanistan. So if you think your children are being blessed by quality individuals if they go to this school, you are 100% right. I want to share one quick story with you, if I may, about Walker. When he was very young, I had read that in 1972 there was something called the Marshmallow Test. And I thought I would try it out on him as kind of a trick because I knew as he was really young, he acted a little bit like Sheldon Cooper. So I kind of wanted to see how he reacted to this one. So at Stanford University, this psychiatrist decided to put a marshmallow in front of young children and give them 15 minutes to figure out whether they would grab that marshmallow and consume it, look at it, push it away, find something to divert their attention, or just how they would react. And they would leave the room, film the child, and see what would happen. The test is all about deferred gratification. If they waited the 15 minutes, the psychiatrist would come back and put another marshmallow on the plate. So we did it with cookies. And you can imagine what Walker did. 15 minutes, he looked at his iPad and distracted himself and waited for the deferred gratification reward. He did not go for the immediate gratification. And young people, if there's any message that you can hear out of Walker's life, that's a good one. He was not just the scoreboard kid. In fact, he was one of the slowest on the Little League team. Yes, he had an incredible brain and things came rather easy to him there. But in every other facet, he had to work and work hard, and he understood what it took to gain things that matter, not just the quick, shiny thing that's in front of us every day on the television, on your phone. If there's anything that we can gather from Walker's life, I hope that y'all will choose that latter gratification. And Jesus Christ to us, I believe, is that ultimate deferred gratification when we'll be back with our son one day. Now, thank y'all so much for taking Alex and loving him and caring for him in the way that you have. His response to this has been remarkable and mature. I wanted to get things back to normal as soon as possible. So, I make my boys work. Stacy and I both believe in that. And so I asked Alex to go mow the yard one day when we got back on Friday. And he enjoys it. He was out there enjoying mowing. But it was August, hot, sweaty, and there's piles of clippings all over the yard. So I grabbed a couple of rakes and I went back there to help him. Didn't complain one bit. And as we got the clippings up, he looked at me and he said, "Dad, imagine who Walker's talking to." So from my perspective, I'm imagining Walker's an angel helping us on earth deal with this tragedy, but not Alex. He said, "Dad, he's talking to George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Martin Luther King." For a kid that loved to read and watch the History Channel, he is now getting the truth. His perspective, Alex's perspective on where Walker is, blew me away. Walker loved Alex with his whole heart. And Alex, you made him so proud, as you do us. Thank you, guys. Now we're going to cheer up a little bit. We're going to hear some of the best Southern rock you've ever heard. So let's have a little fun. Thank y'all so much.
All right. What an honor it is to be able to come here and celebrate Walker's life. And we do intend to celebrate. That is our mindset. I'm very fortunate to have such great friends as musicians and such great musicians as my friends. And tonight, these guys have dedicated a lot of time to learning Allman Brothers songs. Of course, they're from this area, so it's naturally in their blood. They wouldn't know how to do it any other way. But when we heard what an Allman Brothers fan Walker was, it just seemed like a natural fit. So tonight, I'm going to present to you the Restless Natives. So the band is Dustin McCook here on my right. Also, Andy Johnson will be playing guitar with him. Mitch Harrell on one of the drum sets. You notice we're going to follow the traditional Allman Brothers two drum sets format. James Lingle, back on the other kit here, and Joseph Palmer will be laying down the low-end bass for us. And we're grateful to be here, and we want to lift your spirits with music and lift our spirits with music and join this family with this the healing power of music. So I want to thank Buddy Lovell with Audiovisual Services. Buddy donated all of this equipment for us to use. Buddy tragically lost his son several years back in a tragic car accident. And the first thing he said to me was, "I know exactly what this family feels, and I want to do something for them." So thank you, Buddy Lovell. So without further ado, folks, you guys ready to roll? All right. Here are the Restless Natives.